Okay, so careers in energy and critical infrastructure cybersecurity. Hello, everybody. My name is Gabe, and I'm happy to be here and to join you for this conversation. So let me go ahead and progress. Okay, so this will be the presentation flow. So the first thing that we're going to be going over is just an introduction of myself, who I am. Then we'll get into what is OT and what is OT cybersecurity. Just kind of getting some of the definitions and everything down pat. Then we'll talk about why is it important, right? And I think a lot of times people might think like, what is this OT? What is this ICS cybersecurity stuff? So I'll get into why it is important. Then I'll talk about how I got in. Then we'll get into how you can get in, and then we'll go over some resources, and then we'll open it up for questions. And even if we're not able to address all of your questions during this session within the Q&A section, there will be the hallway that they've been mentioning that you'll be able to continuously interact with me, and I can answer more questions and get further into how you can contact me or connect with me professionally. Okay, go to the next one. Okay. These are two of my favorite pictures, right? Because I have a background as a nuclear INC or nuclear instrumentation and control engineer. So I literally worked at a nuclear plant. So typically when I tell people I used to work at a nuclear plant, they always give me the Simpsons reference, Homer Simpson, the bad nuclear reactor person, and he always used to mess up things. And even to the right, the whole Springfield nuclear plant. So I've always been called Homer Simpson for years and years. So that's why I like these. I like to start it off as that. But like I mentioned before, my name is Gabriel Agbarucci, and I work for Accenture, which is a professional services consulting firm where we specialize in technology. So think of it as a technology consulting firm. And there I serve as an OT cybersecurity manager for one of our professional services organizations within OT and ICS, or industrial control system cybersecurity. I am also a member of an organization. We're kind of like a ragtag organization where we're like mercenary incident responders. And we work for the state of Michigan for when the state of Michigan has cybersecurity events or cybersecurity incidents. We are called out to volunteer to help and assist the state with addressing those cyber incidents. So I'm a member of that organization. And on the right, you see the degrees and things. You know, I have a bachelor's in electrical engineering. I have a master's in cybersecurity technology, and all of them certs. So that's that. But let's get into it. Let's get into some definitions, right? So what is OT and what is OT cybersecurity? So these are some definitions that come from Gartner, which is another organization that creates these standards and things for the industry. So we're just going to go into OT, the first one, and hopefully you can see that, but I'll read it out for you. And then I'll just kind of give an overview of what it means, which says hardware and software that detects or causes a change through the direct monitoring and or control of physical devices, processes, and events in asset-centric enterprises, particularly in production and operations. That's a lot, right? That's a mouthful. It might be a lot for you to digest and understand what OT is, but here, I'll just give you an example, right? It's the way that I think of OT is that it's pretty much the cyber physical impact of systems. So you think of an automotive plant where you have a conveyor belt or a line of parts and equipment going down the line. But that cyber piece is there's an operator probably giving controls on how fast the line goes, or what parts are in certain places, or it monitors safety issues there. So I think of OT as something that has a cyber and physical impact on the world, right? And that comes in the form of hardware and software. Now, when you get into OT cybersecurity, and I'll go into that definition, it says the practices and technologies used to protect people, assets, and information involved in the monitoring and or control of physical devices, processes, and events. So just think of OT and just think of cybersecurity thrown on top of that. So that same conveyor line or that line of parts within an automotive plant, think of bad guys might want to get in there and cause some type of disruption to that process, that business process, where OT security helps to defend against those bad guys doing something to those processes within OT. So those are just some kind of high-level definitions. And even I just want to mention this. When you think of OT, a lot of times synonymous, people also mention ICS, which stands for Industrial Control Systems. So OT stands for Operational Technology, and ICS stands for Industrial Control Systems. And a lot of times these are used interchangeably. So you might think of OT, ICS, but also SCADA, which stands for, that's a whole nother thing, but supervisory control and data acquisition systems. That's a whole nother thing, but those are words that are all involved when you're talking about OT and OT cybersecurity. So just want to kind of get some of these definitions out of the way before we get into the fun stuff. So the next question is, why is this important? Why is ICS and OT cybersecurity important? And I want to direct you directly to our commander-in-chief, the president's desk, where we have seen that in May 12th of 2021, that there was an executive order put out by President Biden, speaking of the importance for organizations and the nation to improve its cybersecurity posture. Because as it says here, it says, my administration has worked to strengthen our nation's cyber defenses, mandating extensive cybersecurity measures for federal government and those critical infrastructure sectors, right? Because, and I think that important thing, right, is that like this world is getting more and more digital. We are becoming more and more digitally connected, and that introduces vulnerabilities and weaknesses within systems that can affect us on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you can even look right now. I mean, the way that we're even connecting is through a digital type of platform, digital infrastructure. I mean, the fact that we have lights, we have internet and all of these things, these are critical infrastructure pieces that can be vulnerable to cyber attacks and the bad guys out there. So that's one of those with the executive order. And actually just here on Monday, as we're understanding that there was the Russian / Ukrainian war, that President Biden put out another statement that spoke of that organizations need to prepare for some possible cybersecurity attacks as a result of that conflict happening in the world. So to ask why is it important, I pretty much point you to our nation's leader who sees some importance in it, and that there's been news and articles and events that have been happening where we have been able to see that it is important to our leaders and it's important to our nation, because a lot of this can have adverse effects to us and to our organizations and to our day-to-day lives. So that is why it's important, because I think because our president thinks it's important. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to ask the question of, how did I get here? So as you see in the picture, this is kind of nostalgic for me, right? So there, as you see at the bottom of the caption, is me in the nuclear plant control room. And here I was with my team, with my group, and we were having visitors from another nuclear plant in Japan called Fukushima. And Fukushima went through a horrible event where you all might have remembered that there was an earthquake / a tsunami that affected their nuclear plants, and they were visiting us. And I got a chance to get a little picture in there, but we're actually in a nuclear plant control room, where you see in the back with the tallest guy in the middle, that's actually a diagram of the fuel cells for the nuclear reactor. So that's just a little bit there. And on the right was a view from my desk when I worked at the nuclear plant. So you can see there that that's that traditional, that's the cooling tower. And there are some buildings there. I think that's the reactor room or the reactor building with that large door that transports fuel in and out. But pretty much I got here within OT cybersecurity by mistake. I did not have any intention on jumping into OT cybersecurity, but rather I was an engineer working at a nuclear plant. And then my nuclear plant started to have cybersecurity concerns. Me being the youngest guy around, I was fresh, not too long out of college. They threw me on a lot of those cybersecurity projects. So this was not intentional, but the OT cybersecurity world, I did not call it, but it called me. It called me into the OT cybersecurity world. And I have a little bit of show and tell for you. The first thing I want to show you is that, as you see, that nuclear plants, when I was first coming to the plant, I had to learn about this stuff. So this is actually a diagram. Hopefully you all can see it. This is a diagram of what a nuclear plant looks like. And this is what you call like a boiling water reactor nuclear plant made by General Electric. And there's all these systems and subsystems. And kind of the central piece here is this reactor core and the cooling systems, these two big old little things here to the side that helps to cool the nuclear plant. But I had to learn all of this stuff, all the engineering and all of the cybersecurity sensor strategy and everything as it concerns that plant. So that was one thing that I had to learn when I got there. And another thing, I got another piece of show and tell, is that I always would wear this hat right here. So This is my little hat that you always have to wear. Is for what you call PPE. It's like protective equipment. And you know how people with their computers that they'll take and they will throw all types of stickers on the back of their computers. I kind of changed it up, right? I kind of started throwing stickers on my hard hat. So this is the organization I work for. I got some Ops SWAT stickers here. This is the organization I used to work for, Mandiant. Here's some other stickers. And even that organization I'm a part of, the MIC3, the Michigan Cyber Civilian Corps. So that's a little bit of my history. And that's kind of how I got into there and learned a lot about this environment and this specific flavor of cybersecurity. So that's just a little bit about my history there. And now I want to answer the question of how you can get into cybersecurity. So the first thing, I kind of want to break it down into these 4 steps here. The first one is that, as I mentioned, I got into this field by mistake, right? And the thing about it is that there is no singular way to get into OT cybersecurity. And my way isn't necessarily the best way. I started off with a bachelor's in electrical engineering, eventually transitioned it into a utility organization, where then I was put on cybersecurity projects. That is the way I got in there. But I see people, a lot of my colleagues, come in very different ways. One, like a mentor of mine, he actually had a political science bachelor's degree. I know individuals that have come in with network administration or system administration experience. They would work for utility organization or some type of automotive organization, and then they would transition into that organization or into OT cybersecurity through a lot of those cybersecurity projects that they would get into. So that's the first thing I want to say. And number 2 is that I think that there are a lot of entry-level roles that come in the form or that come through organizations like local utilities like myself, right? National labs like the Idaho National Labs, they have a lot of opportunities within OT and ICS cybersecurity. Automotive organizations like Ford, Chrysler, GM, federal government organizations and industrial vendors. And we get a little bit more into that. The third one I want to talk about is that go to OT cybersecurity conferences like this one, right? And SANS puts on other ones too. They put on the ICS Summit, which is an annual conference that happens. So that's a very good one. And I think it's coming up here in June or so. I might be speaking at it, but I used to speak at it years back too. ICS JWG is one like from the federal government. That's the federal government OT ICS cybersecurity conference. That's every year and it's free. S4 is another one, pretty much the premier cybersecurity conference. But even things like DEF CON, they have specific divisions within ICS and OT cybersecurity in the form of like the ICS Village. They come out and do demonstrations and everything. So that's number 3. And number 4 is to network with OT cybersecurity professionals on Twitter and LinkedIn. Shameless plug. That's my Twitter. You can follow me. DMs are open. You can hit me up with any of your OT and ICS cybersecurity questions, and I will respond. But you can network with other individuals on LinkedIn and Twitter. And we will definitely be able to give you some more depth as it concerns this particular field within cybersecurity. Okay. So this is something I want to break down as it concerns roles, right? And I think that one that's very good for an entry-level role within OT cybersecurity is that in an analyst role. So the first one, I can just break down a couple of these, right? Typically a manager, and this comes from the the Idaho National Labs. They have a publication about what OT security programs probably should look like. So you typically have a manager, somebody who is directing and overseeing some of that industrial cybersecurity program. Then you also have engineers. These people are designing and safe and secure industrial systems. They might be doing PLC or programmable logic controller programming. They might be designing networks that include defense in depth, where they're putting sensors, they're putting security monitoring, all of these things within that particular architecture and environment. The technician is someone who kind of pretty much goes out, right? These are the people that, as you see, this gentleman has a hard hat on, right? These people will have the hard hat and walk down the systems and pretty much assure that the security and the safety of ICS operations. If they see something funny, there might be a computer that's kind of acting funny, or maybe a ransomware note might pop up on that machine. This is something that technician will take a look at. You also have researchers, individuals who have extensive backgrounds, who are able to identify new vulnerabilities and achieve kinetic consequences, right? These are people who are very, have a wide knowledge and a wide range of information, who's able to better consult or better give strategy as it concerns these new and upcoming vulnerabilities within systems, within ICS and OT cybersecurity. But the analyst, I think, is a very good one that I mentioned. Individuals that be able to come in and understand what some of those common threats are. They might be evaluating some of the current feeds, or from like a Dragos, or from like a FireEye, or from ICS CERT, understanding what the vulnerabilities are out there and incorporating those into some of the strategy and monitoring your systems to see if those vulnerabilities exist within your plant environment. So those are some of these key roles, but for an entry-level role, that's the one I want to point out there, is that of an analyst. So now we're going to go over some places where you might be able to find these type of roles. So organizations, so I have 3 different areas where you might be able to find some entry-level roles within this type of field, right? So you're thinking about Siemens, right? ABB, Rockwell Automation, EPRI. These are all like energy type of organizations that have roles within ICS cybersecurity. But also consulting firms, where I highlighted and made bigger Accenture. We are always actively hiring for great talent and individuals who are even fresh out of college. We've been hiring individuals that have some of that background too into our organization, and we have a growing platform and services of OT and ICS cybersecurity services. Mandiant, that's an organization I used to work for. They also have roles. Dragos, Nozomi Networks, Booz Allen, Ernst & Young, right? The big 4 consulting firms. So these are some places where you might be able to find some of these type of roles. But even as myself, right, the way that I got in was from local utilities or large utility organizations, places like a Duke Energy, Entergy, TVA or Tennessee Valley Authority, Con Edison, Pacific Gas and Light, Dominion Energy. These are all organizations that you can be able to look up on LinkedIn and say, hey, what roles do these organizations have for cybersecurity? And that might be entry-level roles, right? So now looking a little bit more into some of that, the tasks and the qualifications for that cybersecurity analyst within OT security, is that pretty much what you typically would be doing is staying abreast of emerging developments relevant to industrial cybersecurity. You would be able to dissect and analyze requests. So you might be going through like some type of ticketing system. You might be working in a SOC or a security operations center role, collecting information, synthesizing information, looking at data, everything as it concerns cybersecurity and industrial environments. And some of those qualifications would look like some type of bachelor's, right? I know things are kind of changing with organizations and the non-traditional route, where a lot of organizations aren't even requiring a bachelor's, but typically now when you see these roles, you would see something like a bachelor's, but it doesn't have to be in engineering or cybersecurity. It could be a bachelor's of art or a bachelor's of science. Coursework could be in the form of intelligence or analysis, cybersecurity certifications, right? I know in the previous presentation, I think for any entry-level cybersecurity role, you can see that Security Plus as being a big plus, right? It gives a very good foundation for cybersecurity principles before people come into the industry. Military experience, that happens a lot. And I forgot to put that in here, right? The federal government and the military has so many different roles within OT and ICS cybersecurity, in the form of where you would have to have security clearances in order to get these type of roles. So military training or military background, if you are about to end your military service, you can transition directly into some of these type of roles within firms like Booz Allen Hamilton or Northrop Grumman. These organizations have plenty of OT and ICS cybersecurity roles. And also data visualization, right? Your ability to take in data, right, as it concerns cybersecurity and be able to interpret it. These are some of those qualifications where that data visualization might come in the form of ELK, right? Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, being familiar with that technology stack and being able to analyze cybersecurity incidents. You might even get some tools under your hand too, right? Things like Wireshark, which gives you the ability to analyze packet captures within networks, looking for cybersecurity anomalies or things, or even looking at tools like Zeek, which are able to allow you to load in packet captures and be able to get out logs and be able to analyze things for bad. So some threat hunting or things. So having your home lab together, having your tools and things like Kali Linux too, understanding the offensive side of that, that will also help you with your qualifications and certifications for some of these entry-level OT cybersecurity roles. Okay, and resources, boom, right? I want to refer you, and you can screenshot these, or I'm sure that you will also be able to be provided these after the presentation. But Rob M. Lee, he has a great blog I think it's from 2016 or so, but it's so relevant even to today. And Rob is the founder of the industrial cybersecurity organization called Dragos, right? So he always comes out with blogs. He's very active in the community. And also he's a person within SANS who has created courses and teaches courses. So a very good resource. And even following him on Twitter is a very good idea. CISA training, right? So CISA has trainings that are ICS, OT, cybersecurity specific, and they're free. So that's a very good place to get a very good introductory knowledge of what this environment or this flavor of cybersecurity is. It teaches you about what a PLC is, right? A programmable logic controller. It teaches you about data historians and engineering workstations. It teaches you about what that environment really looks like so that you can be prepared to protect this environment from cybersecurity attacks. And also looking at those ICS OT cybersecurity podcasts. There is a curated list of ICS and OT podcasts by a gentleman named Anton, who works for Kaspersky, and he does a very good job of putting this list together and tracking all of these podcasts, where you're able to get so many different podcasts in once. I mean, I just can't listen to all of them at once, but they are all great resources. And again, it's a curated list. So these are some of those resources there. And I want to end it here with questions or concerns. I didn't get so much into my background of what I've done, but definitely wanted to provide you all the kind of like a very good basis for understanding what this field looks like. And hopefully I can answer more questions in the hallway and also the Q&A here. So just want to open it up for questions and pass it back over to Delisha.